um, but it was one of, I mean, brain imaging doesn't get off too easily, as I think it was one of the areas that he said, there's like 5 areas that are totally overhyped, and of course, like epigenetics, microbiome, but yeah, brain imaging. And but I think this is a really interesting one, just because like I've pointed out, like there's good papers from researchers saying, like, why don't anesthesiologists track EEG when if for nothing else to tell when there are brain signatures that you shouldn't be seeing. Like even if you don't want to call it a having some magical metric that's level of consciousness, that you could still be tracking what would be abnormal activity. Anyway, I'm still hoping we can get somebody to come and talk about that, from a position of knowledge and expertise. But great, really interesting book, and yeah, a lot of interesting studies, and yeah, some of which have been applied to brain imaging. Okay, it's 6:30. Any updates? I wanted to say that Abby had gotten in touch about EEG notebooks. She had been having problems with the Jupyter notebooks. And
yeah, I talked to her this morning.
Yeah, and I said, did you try run notebook.py? And she's like, oh, that worked.
Yeah.
And I was like, woo. But I did say, like, it might be good since it's JupyterCon. like it would be an appropriate time to try and figure out. So she did get in touch about what that message was, because I hadn't seen that particular. I mean, the OpenBCI stuff had always worked for me. It was actually getting Muse. It was Muse issues, and I think it's like more like Linux and Mac Muse issues than anything.
So is that solved for her, Jaden?
Yeah, so the run notebooks works for her, and I asked her to, whenever she gets a chance, to rerun the Jupyter notebooks and tell me what error she gets, just so we can troubleshoot that as well.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, Morgan, since you mentioned JupyterCon, I have wondered from time to time whether they would be like over the moon or like litigious over the logo. Which is like, people, it's the Jupyter logo with an EEG like nose and ears on it, which personally I think is genius.
I think that
you can have your own opinion.
I think that would be awesome.
That.
Yeah. So
I'm just waiting for someone to get like a letter from someone's lawyer.
Well, we could get, it would be to like, yeah, double check with like Kirsty Whitaker or somebody who's, really in there, and, if she's going to sign off on her, if she doesn't see any problem with it, I don't see what there would be. They did a lot. I'm just thinking of the conference this week, and like lots of people riffing off of climate stuff in the icon. So, or at least, some of those climate projects they're trying to talk up their Jupyter base, and I'm sure.
So were you attending JupyterCon then, Morgan?
I attended in the sense that I got a ticket because it's actually supporting NumFocus. And then it's JupyterCon, so everything's pretty much open, right? Yeah, I just tried to catch what I was basically awake for, because they were also in covering a lot of time zones. So
I noticed there was one that was doing like Jupyter support with VS Code, and people keep telling me to start using VS Code.
Don't use VS Code. Don't use VS Code.
I thought there might be some opinions on that around here. So come on, people. What
do you say, Jim?
Does it matter? You have any strong advocates?
I used to use VS Code a lot. I use PyCharm almost exclusively now.
I feel like it's the next Eclipse.
Right. Well, so is PyCharm.
Well,
I'm like very ascetic on these things. I'm like Vim and just Jupyter notebooks, and that actually works for me.
There you go.
Yeah, you're like my buddy Dylan. I asked him what IDE he used for C++, and he's like, Vim. Yeah, no, thank you.
But what do you? I'm okay. If I can like explain myself, like I started out in MATLAB, right, and eventually I discovered like MATLAB no desktop, and that you don't need all this graphical shit, and that was like a big. Anyway, that's my kind of trajectory.
Sure.
And that maybe accounts for some of. So I'm just kind of allergic to GUIs, full stop.
Yeah.
I understand. That's the exact reason why I like PyCharm, is because I can just do everything involved right on board. Like I can do my virtual environment management. I can do all of my Git management. That's why I like it a lot. So you probably hate it.
Well, this is also a good time to check out Jupyter Lab, which is funny because it's kind of creating MATLAB's GUI, but using a browser.
I don't really like Jupyter, I have to say. I mean, you can just open notebooks from it, so it is like more functionality, and but it's kind of clunky.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it's got where I think they have a good idea of. It just hasn't clicked for me yet.
Sure. Well, the cool thing with JupyterCon was like a bunch of people trying out new things with Jupyter. And I put in a link for the NumFocus Academy. So again, like this would be more, again, like things, certainly some of the people that are in some of the student clubs, especially like people coming from, say, psychology or cognitive neuroscience. These might be good things, because I'm usually starting from scratch with them in terms of what, they're not asking which IDE to use, but they're asking what's an IDE, and so some good links, some interesting things that people are integrating into larger Jupyter projects, and that would be interesting in terms of like, I mean, it seems like the way that some people are using Jupyter is like building Jupyter Hub into Open Neuro would be, more what they're doing, as opposed to like something you're kind of managing yourself. And like that's the way in which I could see us, that's what I'd love to see like NeurotechX doing, in that, like, we had some infrastructure and there's a whole bunch of publicly available data that's already, there, like with the Neureka challenge. And that's the way it should be, but I would still want to be able to SSH into that server.
So what do you think about that? I mean, is
Well,
it's John who was offering that infrastructure?
yeah,
right?
so, and he threatened he would be able to make it. I'm going to say we are talking about you.
Is he here?
No, I don't see him.
Okay.
But yeah, so I would love that. I mean, I think John started. Yeah, he did give us some kind of like intro scripts for spinning up something on AWS, which we could certainly use. And I guess it's not a bad time to at least talk about the hardware hub meeting. And like if we had access to some of our IT details, then we could give it like jupiterhub.neurotechx.com, right? The same way that like instead of like some big long Shopify link, we should have store.neurotechx.com or something like that, right? And that's exactly John gave us he was using, I think, a URL that he had that was Dendritic Tech, I think, if I remember right. But yeah, I mean, that would be great. The only other thing that we really needed was access to, or cheaper GPU access, and again, like if NeurotechX was running it as opposed to say John, but if NeurotechX was running it, then we could apply for like Amazon credits or other Azure credits, and yeah, the kinds of things that a nonprofit could totally justify asking for and receiving that none of us are going to be able to do individually. And I think that would be awesome.
With the epilepsy challenge, like, do you think there's a case for that infrastructure in terms of the users and like just the kind of stats that would support that like such a proposal? To be able to say we know that there are like just from this one thing that we did 100 groups of people who all wanted access to an environment and some kind of cached data of this kind, and that would save them weeks or days of setup and save us weeks and days of support.
Yeah.
Do we have that? Like, can we give numbers on that?
Well, I mean, I don't, but Yannick would, and and he could, they and Narika had all the actual like how many people submitted and things like that, and that would have been the perfect thing to do, is follow up with those, even with submissions that ended up being very poor, predictors, or even poor submissions, and be like, how much time did you spend, like how much was this an area of expertise for you? Setting up this infrastructure was an area of expertise for you. Like, how much would it have helped if you'd been able to, really just focus on algorithm development, or, yeah. I mean, I think it would be, that would only help, and it's the kind of stuff that I imagine that, people like Scott McCaig pulled together and Russ pulled together for the kind of resources that they got with Open Neuro and credits on the San Diego Supercomputing Center, for the Open EEG portal thing.
Yeah, well, we're not Russ Poldrak and Scott McCaig.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but
yeah, anyway.
but and I think, like I said, like they got like $4 million, right? we're not asking for that.
I think the question first is, is it needed, right? I mean, so there's, I mean, the other thing is like Google Colab, right? So
yeah,
that's got a bit, that gives you more than Binder, right? And I don't know if there's any other comparable tools widely available now. They do come in every now and then, but I think that should, at some level, that should be like the threshold. Is if we know that there's people who need to do more compute on the dev things that we're kind of developing as a community than comes in the free offering from Google Colab, then that would be a case for some infrastructure, providing some infrastructure. If not, then be like, well, just do it on there. And that I think it should be formed around something like that, quantified.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, Kyle's examples, his DPEG is all on Colab, right? And so it's definitely doable. Would it scale though to something like 150 gigs? Or like
memory,
what
RAM?
Like what would we? I mean, not just could you you don't need to have the whole thing in RAM,
because there's RAM and there's time, right?
Yeah.
I think those are the two cutouts. And storage is, I think you can mount anything that's in a Google Drive, and you can kind of download stuff. But if you're talking about like hundreds of gigabytes, that could be a bottleneck as well.
Well, the other thing would be like, couldn't we have gotten from Joseph Picone, basically better like mounting of his? He's already got resources to support. I mean, it is a resource like the TUH data set, and I forget what he's called it. It's like NERC or something like that. I don't know if anybody remembers what the acronym is, but like he's got a center for basically like hosting this data set, and like kind of like, yeah, if we focused on nothing but just integrating it better with Colab, that could already be that could be a pretty good solution. I think some people were also using it to kind of learn how to do deep learning stuff, and I guess that's a question of it could be great to get a breakdown of what people spent their time working on for the Neurotechnologies.
Is it on Amazon servers?
Yeah, does anybody remember
the TUH epilepsy
I
data?
want to say they weren't, but because I remember, didn't we SCP from basically from Temple? I mean, this is easy to check, but even if it's not, Picone Press.
Another thing is the TUH data. Do you have to sign up, or is it completely free?
I mean, he has a form that you fill out, but no, I guess it was password protected, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And this was kind of the thing with the Hardware Hub, right? It was like with the Hardware Hub, by being a NeurotechX member, you would get this, you get this password, right? So they were kind of for the challenge. Like we weren't all individually filling out this form, you know, and
Yeah, but that's not like legal data stuff, though, is it? That's just agreements with companies. I mean, maybe it's legal to it, but
well, yeah. I mean, he does say. I mean, I get the feeling that this is added mainly for grant reporting purposes because it's an
right.
automatic. It's like send me your email address, name an email address, and I will email you the password.
Well, anyway, like you can see I can see an easy version of this, right? I mean, there's someone will need to sysadmin it, but it'd be like, imagine we had this NTX server
Yeah,
running a Jupyter lab,
yeah,
and it had some drives mounted with various data sets. That and then the responsibility of the person managing was basically the you would need to say like complete show that you have completed the form for the TUH thing,
yeah,
and then when you get that, then you get a kind of access level, and then you have read access to the folder with the mounted data, and that keeps everyone happy. That at least on the reporting side, yeah, that kind of should be enough. I think strictly speaking, you kind of need a bit more than that, and also someone has to manage it all. But in principle, like that would allow you to have this resource that people just log into, and they've got the data without having to download terabytes of stuff to their
yeah,
personal machines, and maybe some extra kind of infrastructure around that, environments and so on.
yeah. I mean, what would again be great is if we had access to either, the infrastructure or the database that the infrastructure team is using, so that like when you're logged into neurotechx.com, you can say like I would like to have data access. I'd like to have research data access, and then your email address is shared with the various groups. I mean, I'm thinking a little bit about the it's not NeuroLibra. What's the NeuroHub? The McGill NeuroHub. It's like, yeah. I mean, it would be awesome.
Similar kind of thing.
Yeah. And if you didn't need to do anything beyond your kind of your membership, and but that database could be accessible by NeuroHub for whatever info it does need. I mean, I always feel bad to give out, I mean, SPM and EEG Lab, right? They both allow you to basically download the code, but they use a web form, right? And like you're supposed to fill out
SPM's on GitHub. Like I haven't downloaded SPM from the website in years.
But it's when you're on a new computer, or like you find yourself on a fresh MATLAB install, how do you get it?
Git clone GitHub /SPM/SPM12.
And yeah,
I mean SPM don't need. Maybe they will soon. But they're doing fine.
Yeah. Well, but you get my point, right? It's like they put these web forms up because it pays for them to be able to say like, yeah, we had 50,000 people give us email addresses.
I mean, the practical question is just if it's deemed worthwhile to have this resource and there isn't an equivalent thing available somewhere else, is it also worthwhile to the kind of sysadmin workload to manage access for nominally open access data sets, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, that would be super minimal, but it probably, it would be some man hours.
So, I mean, but that was definitely why I thought, if there's a group that would be into making that easier and thinking about the issues behind it, like JupyterCon was a pretty good example.
I feel like some group of NTX student groups would be keen to have a stab at that kind of thing. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic. If you kind of floated it, said, "Hey, I don't want to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Form a group and give us your technical proposal or whatever."
I mean, I think it would definitely be a great student club resource, you know, and you know, like even if that meant leaning heavily on a particular university or a particular research group that like kind of made it their thing to provide the service. I mean, that again, that's kind of why, or you know, like in some way, like NeuroHub is perhaps like the closest example, and to some degree, Open Neuro does this, right? Like, what you know, is the Open Neuro plan is, I assume, to you know make their fMRI kind of, you know, you can run fMRI analysis on Open Neuro data, right? And even keep it embargoed for, I forget what the current embargo is, like 18 months or something.
Yeah, right. They'll do like run fMRI prep for you and stuff. Yeah,
it's like it's yeah, you know.
I don't know. Do they give you like freeform Jupyter Hub?
I certainly not when it rolled out. You know, when it first rolled out, it was like, yeah. But I got the feeling that you could design your own NiPipe pipelines, or you know, like that was what they were going for. But you know, this is like, yeah, it's the same thing as Jupyter Hub, or you know, like I'm sure they're leaning on that as well as like infrastructure to, you know, connect it to both AWS and the various, you know, cluster resources that they have. I mean, it was originally like UT Austin, and then they moved to, I think they're using AWS now, you know, primarily, but I bet Russ or somebody from you know the Center for Reproducible Neuroscience would be willing to talk about it, as well as like getting JB to say more about what NeuroHub is really like. What problems is NeuroHub really solving?
I don't think the internal discussions of NeuroHub are that far along.
Oh, really?
I'm not like privy to them, but I'm kind of privy to third-hand kind of reports. Okay. But that might just be like, you know, some people's limited information.
I mean, you know, again, like part of the, I mean, I think we both said, you know, like if it just gave you limited access to some of, you know, UK Biobank, like that would be pretty cool. You know, because it's a lot more, you know, to get a formal relationship is a bigger deal directly with UK Biobank, right? Like they were trying to obviously abstract some of that.
Yeah, they're not very generous with you know, liberal usage agreements. I know that for a fact. I mean, they're generous, but you have to do the legal legwork.
Yeah, you know, and you know, and so and this is why I think it would be such a great resource for like NeurotechX students in particular, is that some of them, you know, they might there's only a couple of them at a particular university or college, and that doesn't mean that they can, you know, get their university or college to do that. But you know, having a third party like NeurotechX be that bridge would seem like, again, the kind of institutional role that would be perfect. Like the TUH data set in particular is maybe a more manageable, like just push that to collab kind of thing. But yeah. Anyway, I'd still like to follow up on NeuroHub. Just again for, yep, dropped it there. No, Rashik, you did not miss the Moab discussion, or yeah. Oh, but I think he might have left. So. Let me. Sorry, I just saw that. So, Rashik was asking on the Moab channel if if there was still movement to get Arvin's CNN code, CNN SSVP pipelines into Moab. I still haven't heard back from, Sylvain Chevalier, who's maintains the GitHub, has said that like they've got updates for Moab with new data sets, SSVP data sets, but I think a lot of people have said that they're busy trying to move their classes online. I've heard that from a lot of people. Luckily, we had a lot of speakers going out until November already. So, but yeah. So let me just say that to Rashik.
I'm just going to put a comment out. I had a discussion on the Muse channel with a chap from Sweden.
Yeah,
whose name I'm blanking on, Eric. Yeah, and that was very good. We're going to follow up, but I want to broaden it out a bit. So I think I may have mentioned this on the previous call, but I'll just kind of keep repeating. I want to kind of get together and everyone who's trying to figure stuff out with Muse S, particularly for doing sleep recordings, and all of the attendant technical and just practical aspects of doing that. I want to kind of just get some either working group or kind of shared notepad or something, and to just kind of pool expertise, and they'll involve a lot of one-on-one exchanges or kind of small group exchanges, and maybe some big calls or something, and maybe just a kind of like Google Doc that gets randomly filled by random that eventually potentially has lots of info in. So I just want that idea to propagate through, and I'll probably repeat it again in the future, but yes, please transmit.
I'm trying to find so on a related point, somebody who just finished their thesis down in Queensland University Technology, and her thesis is like using wearable devices for large scale sleep studies or something like that, and thinking about more than just EEG, like polysomnography, right? And anyway, definitely, I asked her if she'd be willing to present, just because Australia is great for evening presentation for us. It's their day.
Yeah,
But
cool. Be interested. That sounds great.
I don't know if I actually. Eric was certainly super glad that you'd followed up on that, and and you know, this is somewhat related to Rashik and Kashal's question. Um, oh, Aura, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, John has an Aura ring.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have it on my. I do have it, not right now, but I have an Aura database. Actually,
Yeah.
no, I haven't started getting the data from it. I mean, this is a good point. So I did go to the Open Humans thing,
Good.
and one of the things that it occurred to me was I don't know if Open Humans. I haven't read a lot. I haven't looked into this a lot, but I had this like superficial impression that you could access something like the raw data through this like Open Humans API, because you can't get it from Aura directly. Like, at least I'm not aware of that.
Yeah,
But I don't.
there's almost no easy way to get the data directly from the ring.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember
this
I
is
will
what
put it.
Humans. Yeah,
But what I wasn't sure about is whether you can kind of backdate that data aggregation to your history database, or whether you only get it from when you start trying to get it, etc. You see what I mean? And I haven't checked, but now I'm remembering that this is something that I need to look into.
So what Open Humans generally do is they, if the company doesn't provide an app or a way to do it, then they'll build something. So it's like there's sometimes I haven't seen with the Aura. I'm just checking their site for it in terms of what they say. It might be under, oh no, Aura Connect. Connect your Aura to.
The last time I looked into it, they mainly actually only record data on the device and send it out, it seems, when you aren't moving a lot. They know that movement screws up the data. That's why sleep tracking is much easier for them, or meditation tracking. But I think there should be a way. I've been meaning to contact them about seeing if there's a way to get like an LSL stream of the data, because that would be really nice.
So Bastion is on the is in our Neurotech SF Messenger group. So you can also just message him there, or like I'll ask him, see if he responds. They've got a great Slack, so you can go to Open Humans, join Open Humans Slack, and also ask, because they can access this is like to get Apple Watch data, and other devices. There are specific like iPhone, Android apps that you can install, and then you get everything, from devices that had appeared closed. And again, like they're a very fair, like fair, the acronym kind of best practices, or like Open Humans is never trying to lock you into anything.
Do you know if they basically develop access to the device manufacturer's database, or do they?
They'll do both. Like it's like it'll depend, right? So it's like, does that manufacturer like give us some sort of web interface where we just need to do So this is one of the reasons why Open Humans run their own, Jupyter hub, but it's like their own web infrastructure, is that they can have OAuth 2 and like if you need, if the service will give you access to the data with proper authentication, then they will provide that authentication. If not, then they might come up with an app that, like, they would write their own app, and like then that app can access, via the, I guess, the local, the local Bluetooth connection. That it's, so again, like using the Apple Watch as the example, and the Apple Watch would be great in terms of adding to our, like if we were getting NIRS measures, then the Apple Watch could actually be giving us some good physiological control signals, some physio signals that can it access the raw data for I believe so. But if you see the page, that I've got there, Gedenkenstück is Bastian. So like Bastian is the guy that wrote all of this, and let's just get him to answer that question directly.
I'm logged in right now. I think I'll have the answer.
Okay,
shortly.
Good. Because
I got so far as like clicking on a bunch of things that were kind of connect accounts and so on.
Yeah, so it's like
Jupyter Hub. I think I'm going to know soon whether I can access data. If it'll say now you will start getting access. But I remembered that I wanted to do, if it was like now you can start getting access, then you want to do that first rather than do that like in 2 years after building up a load of data that's only on the manufacturer's database. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear about that, and well, I'm not just to go back quickly to the problem of maintaining a connection with Muse S over, say a 8-hour period. An additional, or like Blue Z was found to have a massive security hole. In addition to all the other problems that we have, the Bluetooth stack, at least on Linux, is also a massive security hole. Like, woo! But what I don't understand with like Muse.js, like what, like I still think that Muse.js is using some sort of dependency, or like why do Kyle will always, and others who've tried EEG EDU have touted. I mean, I think Mayank had said that he got much better results with the JavaScript Muse interface than he ever got with Muse LSL.
Did he say? I thought he said the opposite. I feel like I've heard
really.
Tyler said the opposite, which is like,
what was that when he was trying to write it himself?
Maybe.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, like again, like why is Jason's, why is Blue Muse so good? Or again, like, is he writing his own interface? Or like, why is he also able to support multiple Bluetooth devices, and also seem to have more stable connections. But you're on Windows, right? Like Bluemuse is still a problem for you, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Very rarely.
I mean, can you do a Muse S recording with Bluemuse?
I literally just started a Muse Bluemuse stream about 10 seconds ago.
Okay.
As you mentioned, as you bring it up,
And
it's running.
okay.
Like it was only things like 8-hour recordings where issues started coming up, and I have this other like random issue with the machine that I use this on, which is like it's a work laptop that I have admin access on, but I don't have like 100% admin access on, and it essentially like the way that it kind of the way that my access privileges, my limited access privileges kind of manifest is I have to reinstall Bluemuse every time I want to use it.
Really?
Yeah, but it lets me do it, but it won't let me open it up again the next day. So that's just a random thing with me. That's not a general problem. I mean, sometimes it like loses the device, right? But it's as good as any other kind of Bluetooth detecting thing that I've been using over the last few years at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Well done, Jason.
It's been good through 10-minute experiments, like
right.
But you guys are the ones really pushing it, and Eric's doing this activity. He's doing an activity monitor, so he wants kind of like all day.
So you spoke to him?
Yeah. He joins us in NeurotechX Paris Hack Night.
And what? And he gives like updates and stuff.
I mean, like he only started like a month ago, so.
But is that what you guys do? You give updates? How do those sessions tend to go?
Yeah, it's just a different group. I mean, it's just a different group of people, or that's a more appropriate time zone. Although, yeah, Dimitri was here. So last week, it was great because Andrei Parfenov joined us as the BrainFlow developer, and so I was talking about Hacktoberfest, and he wasn't familiar with it, and but then when I showed him a link to the DigitalOcean page, he added BrainFlow as a project. So it's like, any contribution to BrainFlow is qualifies you for your Hacktoberfest T-shirt from DigitalOcean. As well as it was really nice. So he used to work with the Intel computer vision team, I think. And anyway, we were talking about like the ability to install OpenVINO on Fedora, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I think I did that once." And I was like, "Well, it's like the installers." It's a little like FSL, like the installers looking for only supported Linux distros. Hey, John. There's absolutely no reason it couldn't be installed, but sorry, John Nolte. I forget there's multiple Johns. I was hoping that Josh, was it Josh Fish?
Who's S?
Yes, S is joining us. Sorry, I've got her name right here. And yeah, Shahar.
Hi, Shahar.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, so you've got an Aura ring.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. And are
Just
you
got it like a few days back.
say again?
Just got it a few days back.
Oh, just a few days. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Are
Yeah.
Can I ask, do you get, is it giving you lots of red in your sleep reports?
I
Lots of-
mean, not red. Mine is like good until now. It's not excellent or like, it's not like perfect, but it's just like good. And I'm just trying to get out raw PPG data or any raw sensor data out of it because I saw it's cloud API and they don't give a lot of their raw data on there. So
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Well, I'm
That's
glad.
the Aura Cloud API. Right.
can you say that again?
I don't know the Cloud API. I haven't checked it
Oh,
out. I do know that it gives me lots of red for my sleep reports, and it's quite it's quite distressing. It's telling me that I'm bad at sleeping.
Do you think that stress of knowing that you're a bad sleeper is then in turn impacting your sleep?
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It sounds like a
it's
controls
spiral.
problem now.
Yeah.
You guys,
Exactly.
you guys should really watch the Aura Ring breakdown from iFixit. It's really cool. They like tear it apart and tell you what the components are. Definitely worth watching. It's like 15 minutes long, but
All right.
bookmark it.
Can you put the link?
There.
Oh, you just did. Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let me just let's see. So next, since John joined, we've got we're going to be talking about the hardware hub next week. So I'd really love to get. Well, we're going to be working hard to increase the transparency of what we're doing with the hardware hub, as well as we need more help in terms of getting in touch with other companies and getting more products listed, and then hopefully more people doing legwork to talk to companies about what the benefits are here. Sorry, just a sec.
Yeah, I mean, the Aura Ring would be a cool one. I wish, and it'd be cool if they like we could talk to them and maybe they could give us a discount. I think everyone here was here a couple weeks ago when Ben Tam announced the hardware, NeurotechX hardware hub. But basically, the deal is NeurotechX is working with a bunch of hardware manufacturers and companies that are producing, neurotech related hardware, and they give the NeurotechX community a discount for purchasing through this hardware hub. I think it's like 10% discount or 20%, and so that's like this really cool opportunity we have to just use our members, our free membership as NeurotechX members to get a discount on cool hardware like Muse and Emotive. OpenBCI is up there, and yeah, so those are, and there's some NeurotechX swag we can buy for all the people who want like hoodies or T-shirts or whatever. So it's still a work in progress. I think the whole governance model for it is still like being worked out because this is the first time I know of where NeurotechX is dealing with something that's kind of money related, which is kind of cool but also kind of scary because money complicates everything, in my opinion, compared to just like a free open community where nobody touches money. So yeah, I think being very transparent, very open is going to be like important factors for like keeping these things running smoothly and reducing friction inside the community. So yeah, I'm looking forward to updates in that too. You're muted, Morgan.
Thank you. That is next Wednesday, so we'll be able to hopefully have some updates next week. But yeah, we don't want to go too fast on that, and just get it done right.
Oh, yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about.
Sure.
So, a long time ago, I ordered from Crowd Supply a device, and I haven't even opened it up yet because I've just been like one of those stupid people who orders something from Crowd Supply or Kickstarter and leaves it in his fucking box.
I think I know what it is.
It's from Spectra Labs. Yeah, Spectra. Maybe
It
not
is Spectra from Mind's
I
Eye.
forget what Gene calls her company, but yeah, it's an open EIT device. And so I was thinking maybe like maybe next week or the week after that, we could have like a little unboxing ceremony or whatever. I'll install all the software again to make sure it runs on my computer, but we could do like a demo of that for people who would be interested in watching the open EIT be used. And
Yep.
you can put like a rock in a bowl and like a squash in a bowl, and share with you guys the live imaging from this device. So
it's a terrific project. I've talked to Jean about also being part of the hardware hub, which she's happy to help with too. But the great thing is that Jean's got a great recording of her already on NeurotechX's website, talking about Spectra, and we should be able to take code from. I mean, she's got software that goes with it, but you should be able to model. You should be able to model what happens in the dish with SimNibs as well, which is a software package we talked about, and got links to great workshops for doing EIT modeling of the head. You can absolutely do the same thing with just a 2D in a dish.
The Spectra kit is really cool. I remember when Gene showed it at one of the physical meetups a long time ago.
Yep.
Would be cool if at some point we could do a demo at Noise Bridge. I know I've thought about trying to use the Spectra kit to do hand movement prediction and analysis by wrapping it around my arm and try to get the muscle movements and, in essence, control a virtual hand using my real one. I heard someone had started to do that with the Spectra kit a while ago, but I don't know how much it's improved.
I have a ganglion cyst on my wrist, and I would love to, and I don't have one on my other wrist, so I would love to see can I identify the cyst in my wrist? I think for me that's the experiment I would like to do, but yeah, first I would just do strawberries and squash in a bowl, something that's not connected to my body, because that's something else. We're talking about in the hardware hub, is how do I know the Spectra is not going to shock me? Because it's connected to an outlet, it's sending an electrical current through my body. What if it's at an amplitude, or at the amps are so high that it eventually just stops my heart from beating because of something. I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know if it's possible or not. How do I know it's not possible?
There's a really great discussion on the lab streaming layer Slack, and so somebody was basically talking about their TI, their TI 1299 chip project, and they're saying it's not cleared for it's not cleared for electrical safety, but it gets as good signals as anything. And Chad Valet's response to that on the Slack is totally worth joining Slack and Lab Streaming Layer Slack to read. He's like, I'm incredibly disturbed that you don't think electrical safety is important. like no, somebody shouldn't be attaching themselves to an outlet.
Well, I mean, back in the day, OpenBCI V1 was just an Arduino shield. And so my friends had one, and we would plug it into our laptop, because
Sure.
it's one of those USB-A cables to USB, whatever the fuck it is, that your computer. Sure. And you could tell a difference in like how much noise was in the system based on whether your laptop was plugged into an AC outlet or not. And we're like, I wonder if that's like,
I mean, you can still do that.
So my
there was no warning, Connor and Joel were like, yeah, use it your own free will, like whatever.
Sorry, Jake, go ahead.
I was just saying you could still do that in the right situations. Like that just, I think, more has to do with the passive electrodes and them being exposed, that it's so easy for noise to get into. But I wouldn't be too worried about that turning around on you.
Well, so I think again, like Chad's got some great responses, and yeah, even more so when you're trying to send electricity into people's heads. I mean, you're like this person was just talking about an EEG system, and yeah, what we're talking about is of course doing TES. Yeah. Anyway, it's a great project, and I'd love to make time for that, John. If we could set a date for that. I did notice we've got a very auspicious. Our first meeting in November is November 5th. So I felt like we had to do something special.
No one knows what you're talking about, Morgan.
Do they not?
Do we need to order our V for Vendetta mask?
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Yeah.
They do. All right.
I mean, they didn't grow up with the same thing, John. That's true.
Yeah,
You didn't grow up burning effigies.
Yeah, exactly.
Parliament. Yeah.
You haven't lived if you haven't burned an effigy a dozen times in your early childhood.
Yeah, and like have the adults egging.
Yeah, all the kids. You spend a day making the guy, getting your dad's old clothes, stuffing it with paper, and then you all go around the bonfire in the evening, and you throw the guy on the fire and watch him burn.
Yeah,
and everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's called family, country.
Yeah.
I have to say the end of October, beginning in November has all the fun holidays. Halloween, Day of the Dead, 5th of November. Like, it is one of the funnest times a year.
Hey, in October we got Nevada Day. Stupidest holiday ever.
Wait, that's a thing?
That is a thing. We it basically falls on like Halloween every year, and I forget why we have it. It's such a Las Vegas thing to have Halloween off every year, but it's horrible.
I gotta say, it's super sad. I mean, my street in San Francisco,
Belvedere area.
Yeah, so Belvedere is closed. So like Halloween's closed, and everybody's on the street supposed to make donations to the food bank instead, which is obviously is what we should be doing. But it's super sad because it's like it's one of the.
You can't spend $1,000 on candy this year.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Belvedere is one of the U.S.'s largest Halloween streets. It before the Castro NSF was closed for Halloween because of chaos. It was the second largest street in San Francisco, but it still draws 5,000 people every year, typically. I used to go, and in one night, I got 10.5 pounds of candy after stopping at 112 houses.
If people will still, they'll come up to our door, like all the lights are off. It's 10 at night. Everybody's gone home, and we'll still get people coming to our door.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like candy.
My parents have gotten a couple bottles of wine from people we know. They're just like, "Happy Halloween," and hand me the bottle of wine.
God bless America.
Right. Yeah.
America.
I'll tell. Yeah. My grandmother would tell stories about Halloween basically being like the scariest, the honestly scariest day of the year. But this was back in the 20s and 30s in the South. It's 7:30, and we didn't cover everything already, but moving on to Jaden, tell us about Neurorobotics SIG.
Yeah, so my buddy Dylan and I, he's joined me on the call, I think, once before, are planning on starting a Neurorobotics virtual discussion group. Looks like we're going to be starting next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If people are interested and can't make that time, let me know and we can work out a different time. But the idea is just to go over papers or research or whatever in the field every week. My buddy Dylan is a PhD student over at the University of Michigan at the Chestic Lab doing cortical BMI and monkeys. And so I'm interested on the other side of neurorobotics, where it's more spiking neural network controls robotic systems. And so I think it's a pretty solid base for both ends. The first topic we're going to cover, I think, is going to be just like neurorobotics frameworks. So we're going to cover that Ross Neuro paper, and then also another paper that was posted in the Slack that's about NENGO that was just published, I think, last week. So if you're interested, join the Neurorobotics channel on Slack.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm so glad you guys are doing it, and yeah, I mean, this is your area, or to a large degree, and let me just find that paper because I thought that it was. So Josh Phipps, who's also joined us before, and Josh Phipps posted this. Why am I not seeing it? Do you have a link to that Frontiers paper? It's like low power. Yeah. NENGO and low power AI hardware.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
And so that's by the guys from Applied Brain Research in Waterloo Center for Theoretical Neuroscience.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I email kind of off and on with Dr. DeWolf. We're both we email each other, but it's like 2 months between each email. And so hopefully I'll be able to get him to come join us sometime and talk a little bit. But his work is like what really got me into this.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I really do. I love this paper. It's got a great overview of of kind of like the entire like what neurorobotics is, as well as like some great examples that also in themselves like link to a bunch of other projects too, right? So as he says here, they're they're not only like interfacing, so this kind of like the one bit is like to kind of like your ROS kind of layer, and then here's to your deep learning, and then the neural engineering framework. I know this is the old book that came from that group, right? The Applied Brain Research.
Yeah, Dr. Elias Smith, and I think Steven Anderson, I think his name is maybe Christopher Anderson. Yeah, but yeah, Chris Elias Smith, the third author on this paper. He's the I think the head of that center, and then also the founder of Applied Brain Research.
Okay. Is this kind of like I mean, is this them talking about like using spiking neural networks for doing control theory kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, do you mean the neural engineering framework in general, or?
Yeah. Or like what would you? What's another way of saying what this is? Because
the way they refer to it is they call it a neural compiler, essentially. And so it's basically the mathematical models of like linear encodings and nonlinear decodings. It's based on like three principles. I've skimmed through the book, but it's basically all of the math behind the neurons and I think the population dynamics and all of that they're implementing in NNGO.
So it's it sounds like how they reformulate problems to be solved by this kind of framework.
Right.
I just want to save the compiler bit for what they're calling this fourth bit, because when they're talking about like, what I think of as a compiler, which is like take a higher level code and turn it into something that can run on different different hardware, and because that's what this Nengo Lohi's talking about, right?
Yeah. Let me see what they originally referred to it as, so I don't get the wrong verbiage. But
I thought that was good. I mean, they and then like you see here, their first example is using a spiking neural network to control a rover, but in Mujoko, which is of course the physics engine simulation environment that OpenAI bought, and is a requirement in a lot of OpenAI projects. It still requires a commercial license.
Yeah, they do have an education license, I believe.
Oh, I mean the Mujoko.
Yeah, very recently they've done, because I've been using Mujoko recently to they're really good at providing code for all of their simulations and demonstrations.
Yeah,
and so I've run a few of their sims before.
Yeah, and of course Todorov, or what I forget the guy who wrote. Sorry, it's Todorov, who wrote Mujoko. It's also got a simmed implementation, so it runs like 2x faster because it's doing a lot of vector processing, at least on Intel chips.
Interesting.
But
yeah, hopefully by Tuesday, I'm gonna try to spin up their rover simulator and hopefully be able to share it.
Yeah, so that's so cool. I mean, so their example that the rover that they're talking about, and it's I think it's like they're taking 4 cameras to then figure out what the path they should be following is, and then how to to implement that with the wheels that they have, right?
Yeah, and I'm hopefully down the line going to start after I run the simulation. I want to try to build an actual physical rover, like based off those specifications, and then try to run it on hardware as well.
Huh.
But so the two projects that they have there, the first one is a fully end-to-end spiking neural network control system where they do the vision processing as well. They have like a Keras model
Yep.
converted to a spiking neural network model to determine the target distance. Then they also do the control algorithms with the spiking neural networks as well. And then the project with the Jacko arm is they added on to an already existing control system for the adaptive functionality.
So this Nengo interfaces. Yeah, and then here's the arm. So how much is one of these Canova 6 degrees of freedom arms?
I'm pretty sure those are pretty expensive. Let me check it out.
You know, after Abik's comments last week on, or yeah, it was last week. I think we had Ray on talking about how much cheaper he could find things on eBay. I've already searched on eBay and I couldn't find one.
Let's see.
But there was there's
cost estimate is around 35,000.
35,000. Okay,
Yeah.
We can do better though, right?
For the arm.
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to put together an ARM project for like a couple hundred.
The issue is going to be sourcing the force torque, the force sensing drives.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's the expensive component.
yeah, those drives are expensive, and if I'm not sure if they're using harmonic drives for these, but harmonic drives are in like a pretty big shortage at the moment.
So Ryan, does NoiseBridge have any? I mean, like, I know that people on the Dream Team have talked about getting a robotic arm before.
Yes. So I'm definitely one of the people who's been most interested in that Dream Team.
I gotta grab my phone, I'll be right back.
Yeah, we've talked with a couple. There's a really nice robotic arm that won the Hackaday Prize.
Oh yeah.
Last year that I talked with, and they might be willing to send a robotic arm to NoiseBridge. And that would be, there's like carbon fiber components, and like it's really nice, and it's actually very much open source. So
do you have a link for us?
yeah, I'll go find the link for it. But yeah, good robotic arm. Like, we also want to use it to upgrade our robotic bartender. I really want.
Again, that like if we can do it in simulation as well as in real life, that's great. You know,
literally have a robot get you a cocktail because you are getting annoyed at something. Like, literally wear EEG headset, it senses that you're getting annoyed and it goes and grabs you a drink.
Sure. Well,
or it makes a drink based on how your thought patterns are or something. Like, how focused are you? Do you need a drink that will loosen you up or what? Like, yeah. There's a lot of fun uses for robotic arm and for testing.
So, if I just put in Hackaday robotic arm, I mean, I'm going to get a whole bunch of projects, aren't I?
Yeah. It's Hackaday Prize 2019, I'm pretty sure. And there's a robotic arm as one of the... they lowered the cost a lot by not having by building their own encoders into the arm itself. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, so okay, yeah, 6E. So, I mean, one reason to use, or to use hardware that is supported by Mujoko and like OpenAI's Jim is that it just makes doing the tutorials much easier.
Oh, it won the 2018 prize.
Oh, okay.
Dexter. Yeah, Dexter robotic arm.
Dexter. Well, I mean, it would be. Oh, I see. There was a guy from like Samsung AI on LinkedIn who's doing a best robots you can find on AliExpress, and some of them were still like super expensive projects, but some really some interesting like Boston Dynamics spot ripoffs for like $10,000 that that definitely looked pretty cool jumping around on a. So we're just looking at Dexter.
Yeah, I need to check because I think there might have been another one as well. But yeah, Dexter is one of them, and yeah, it's pretty dang nice.
So do I need to get worried about 5 minutes of fame, or like?
I'm trying to check in with the current host, see where it's going to be hosted. But yeah, I'll let you know because it looks like you're fourth or fifth in line.
Okay.
So I could probably just tell you when to go in.
Okay, great. Well, so there's just there's some discussion in this paper about the the Intel neuromorphic chip that's quite cheap. I think it's like $200 or $300. That that you can use as an example that is say cheaper than the Spinnaker project from the Human Brain Project. So, but there's the Nango Lohi, and let's see, where's that? Why doesn't I don't know why the neuromorphic computing doesn't seem to be have the doesn't seem to have the same eBrains treatment. Here's the so this is Spinnaker, which is at the University of Manchester, and sorry, Brain Scales, which is Heidelberg. So these are the super fancy ones, right? That Human Brain Project's talking about as part of their neuromorphic platform, but Nengo's really covering this with Lohi and I forget the name of is True North is the IBM.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, so this compiling to neuromorphic hardware, which
they're also planning on releasing their own chip, I think, next year.
Waterloo.
Yeah, Applied Brain Research.
Applied Brain Research. So are they're a commercial spin-off?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so they they'll do things like they patented one of their their LSTM beater, but they patent in a way so that other people can't use make profit off it, but it's completely open for research and things like that.
Got it. So I mean like it's open for non-commercial use.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's called the Legendre Memory Unit. Really interesting paper.
Okay. Well, so yeah, if you are interested, please join the Neurobotics channel on Slack, and that's where we first posted the Ross Neuro stuff, and yeah, so I would love there to be a journal club, or and even better, turn that into journal club / practicum of, and wherever, again, somewhat, I mean, it's different than what we were talking about for Jupyter Hub, but why I put the neurobotics.net link on the meetup agenda is that Human Brain Platform is basically trying to give you a web simulator, right? It's a web simulator everybody can use, and in this case, it's got the ROS built in, so the examples, and it would be easy to take something like they've already got TurtleBot implemented, right? So you turn the advanced, I forget what's the company name again?
Applied Brain Research.
Applied Brain Research. Why is that so hard? It's makes perfect sense. Applied Brain Research's Mujoko example, turn it into a TurtleBot example, and we could all play with the simulator. You can all play on the web with the Human Brain Project's simulator at neurobotics.net. Have you got an account on that? I mean, that's really just a sign up.
No, I actually just pulled it up on my other browser to make an account.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, it would be great if you could try that out, because in the sense that it should be a really simple email sign up, and if it's not, then let me know. Okay. I know that for Devesh to get access to the Open EEG lab portal, he needed to get his professor to write something, but that was get access to the San Diego Supercomputing Center. I mean,
oh yeah,
in this case, if anything, the neurobotics.net platform, when it's run on their server, it's the pre-canned stuff. That's all you can run, and you only kind of have access to the web front end, this JavaScript front end. Now they give you the entire software stack. So like we could run it on our own server at, say, Noisebridge. You know, and I'm just giving Noisebridge as an example of like not at our home,
Yeah.
but open, but more open than say a university. And yeah, so Ryan might be dealing with the fact that Noisebridge is actually running an event right now, or is about to start an event in 5 minutes. But yeah, I mean, if they would let us run a server that would be accessible with, you know, certain precautions, I would totally donate my Mujoko license for that server. It's better than having it just downstairs. And I don't have an ARM. I mean, I don't have any. I mean, the only hardware I've got is one of the cars. So if that was kind of why, or certainly that was why Hacktoberfest is also interesting to talk about, because it is sponsored by Intel, or at least that's the real money behind DigitalOcean's project. And OpenVINO is the one part of AWS's, or, you know, Amazon's Deep Racer project, in addition to ROS. It's basically a ROS plus OpenVINO project plus some scripts. And yeah, so happy to have that running around Noisebridge causing problems, but can't be causing too many problems because people aren't really allowed to be in the building. You know.
So are you saying I should make an account with Human Brain Project first, or just the Neurorobotics.net?
I believe you're going to make one with Human Brain Project.
Okay, cool.
And that will give you access to Neurorobotics.net.
Cool.
And if you've got any problems, let me know. And I mean, the other reason that I'm saying this is that Human Brain Project keeps asking in a, I don't want to say desperate way, but they ask all the time for people to submit, from people outside the EU to submit requests for things that, I mean, basically for like access and resources that they could share or that would be useful to people as a service, you know. And this is, you know, like this plus their, you know, access to their neuromorphic hardware. Because for those who don't know, Neurorobotics.net is both a combination of ROS and the simulator that they're using is ROS's, which is Gazebo, plus the Nest project, which is just a kind of it's a different spiking neural network package. And so, you know, like my only, or, you know, I guess the one thing about Nest, which is nice, is that there's quite a few academic research projects that have been more computational neuroscience, as opposed to, you know, robotics control systems that have Nest examples, right? So, and then you can go to ModelDB and you can find Nest models of various, you know, circuits.
Yeah, they've got some serious development team manpower there and brains.
Yeah,
They've got the Human Brain Project and the German government behind them,
right,
big time.
right,
The Nest developers,
right.
That's
right.
the impression I get.
No, definitely, right. And
it's the ULIC people specifically. It's like the supercomputing specialists and computational neuroscience specialists, and amongst other things. And that, yeah, it's a special place that has lots of special people who are the kind of people you want to be supporting, like, technically high performance things like this.
Yeah, and as part of their Phoenix project. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm just keeping an eye on. If Ryan needs me to do this. I'm just doing a thing presenting on basically EEG notebooks and the just talking about NeurotechX and EEG. I can. Why don't I quickly?
Yeah, I can give you the link is actually on the 5MOF page on the NoiseBridge wiki. I just gave you the NoiseBridge wiki link. I don't want to accidentally try running both of the JITSIs right now. But I'm pretty sure you are fourth in line. You're going to be fourth, so in like 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Got access to my Aura data.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm just kind of trying to figure out what's there now. But I have things. Maybe we could do I could do a screen share next time or something, and we could just have a look together.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, like, I have a bunch of dictionaries with a bunch of dictionaries in them with a bunch of dictionaries in them that have lots of things, and I have no idea what any of it is specifically. But things like sleep, time went to bed, bedtime start, bedtime end, bedtime delta, breath average, deep REM, efficiency, heart rate 5 minutes, restless, onset latency, midpoint time, hypnogram. Oh, they've got a hypnogram. Ah, it's there. There's loads of stuff here. Okay.
Oh, okay. So they're doing some sort of stage estimation?
What it is at the moment is it's a dictionary entry where the key is hypnogram _5min, and then the entry is a text string consisting of 4s, 2s, 1s, and 3s. And it's the big long string of 4 4 2 2 2 2 2 2 1 1 4 4 3 4 4 2 4 4 3 2 2 2 2 2. Which is, I mean, it's polysomnography, right? Or it's a hypnogram anyway. So it's there's stuff here. There's definitely stuff to explore. More than we can do justice in the next few minutes, I think.
Okay. Well, I'm just running through these slides, but I was just going to say Human Brain Project is currently based out of Jülich, which is also the German Supercomputing Center. But they do, because it's like a EU-wide thing, they also link to all the other supercomputing centers in Europe, right? And the cool thing being that, like, I think at this point, I mean, except for maybe Jülich, that we have NeurotechX chapters where all those supercomputing centers are, at least at, like, Barcelona, Zurich. I'm trying to think where the one is in Cyprus, which is just weird.
Manchester, Norway, I think, Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we've got, or at least people have showed up from all the big four cities in Sweden, and I just recently saw. I'm blanking on his name. The broccoli developer. He did the GPU upsampling of oh man. So it's broccoli OpenCL, because obviously broccoli will get you a Wanderine. Oh, Anders Eklund. Yeah.
Was he one of the voodoo correlations people?
He was definitely on. He was on a cool paper with Tom Nichols. Was that the voodoo?
Well, and he's a Tom Nichols type person, isn't he? He's a neuroimaging statistician.
I mean, definitely yeah. I mean, he was definitely big data. Super focused on, at least has always been super focused on GPU programming. So broccoli is all of first level fMRI, but coded in OpenCL. So every and full Bayesian first level modeling that only only Will Penny's ever done in SPM, but
no one's ever used.
And nobody's ever used it, right? And Anders has implemented it OpenCL, and it's faster than every single it's faster than you press the button and it's done. Yeah. It's really cool stuff, but I don't know how many people besides Anders ever used it, which is a shame. But let me just I'm gonna just be gone for a little bit to do this noise bridge thing, and
and do you want to talk on anything about the space or 5 minutes of Blender or anything like that?
Yeah.
Should I switch over?
Yeah, you can switch over. They're currently just. I don't know if any talks have started, but they're all set up.
Should I use the one with the date?
Yeah. There should be a link to the Jitsi. I'm already in there on my phone.
Okay.
I've got to head off in a few minutes, Morgan, so I'll catch you tomorrow.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jaden. Yeah, I'm super interested, and we'll try and advertise this some more. There's a robotics group at Noisebridge, so
Awesome. Cool.
I'm talking about it, at least in terms of please come and learn more.
Yeah, there's been a lot of interest in robotics lately. Morgan, what should we talk about while you're gone?
Check all the links in the meetup agenda. So much happened last week, and there's lots of really great FNIRS talks, and maybe Josh can talk about how we could make an array, a cheap FNIRS array. It's not time domain FNIRS, but a super cheap one to at least do diffusion optical tomography. How about that?
Well, I have another thing that we could do is I could kind of share my screen a bit with all these Aura Jupyter notebooks that I have open at the moment.
Even better.
Yeah, I want to see what the Aura
Cool.
stuff is
All right.
like. Cool.
I'll be back.
It's a bit of a mess, but I have a few things open, so why don't I
Cool.
why don't
Go
I try
ahead.
and go through that? So I'll share my screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited you're able to find some of the data from Dora Ring, because if it's usable, that, like, for even just PPG or accurate
I think the majority
blood oxygenation
from the
if-
Seattle area.
Well,
Like-
so I'll just kind of I done a bit of just
But yeah, that was
various
a
links have
virtual
come up, and
experience this
I guess
year.
I followed some links and opened up a bunch of
Yeah.
tabs, but there are a bunch of things like, blog posts that have some code in, one or two of them in particular. But if you go to Open Humans, if you kind of start from there, and so I did go to this a while ago, and you get an account and add connect your accounts, and you kind of grant Aura access, and I did do that. He said, okay, I did that in September, but I never really explored it. So I came back just as we were having this conversation, and from from this landing page in Open Humans, which is like Aura Connect, they're giving you a bunch of links out here. Now, what I kind of found with several of these is that they just hang. Well, anyway, that's one of them. So some of these, like, it looked promising, and I kind of clicked through either from this page or a different page, and I've got something like this. But in other cases, stuff happens. So there's this looks like the most useful part of the site, which is a list of notebooks for doing various things, and it's filtered. This is filtered by Aura. So these are, what have they got, like 10 things here. I remember seeing these things that were like Aura with flu and coronavirus, so it looks like there's a bunch of those, but just been looking at this first one really. So this looks like the generic one, maybe. Aura HRV activity sleep. So I think that some of those things link to something like this. This is actually a really nice page. It's a static view. Let me just see if I can kind of link to. I can get to that from here as well. So that was this one. I think that might be this preview. No. No, it wasn't. That wasn't this one. Okay. Let's give this a second to load. Well, if I flash back to that page anyway, this one looks pretty good. They don't have the code in this for some reason. I think there may have been an option back there that was like show code and data, but just without even looking at any of it right now, it's a bunch of R plotting of data that's done in Jupyter with like the R to Pi interface thing, and it's quite a big notebook. It's like a lot of stuff in there. So the source for this looks like a kind of a good comprehensive starting point for just grabbing the data. The one that I opened up just now, I think was not. Oh yeah, it is that one. Okay, so I hadn't opened this one before. I'd opened a different one. Which one would I open before? It was... Maybe it's this one. Okay, well, that's a different page. So if I just say preview and I say edit and run, oh, don't do that. Preview gave me an option just now. No, it's not giving me that. Okay, here we go. Edit and run seems to actually open up the notebook. Good. So this, okay. Now this is the one that I was looking at just now. So you can run this on their server, or you can actually download this just with, you know, download as notebook, for example. And I did do that, and I have it on my local machine. And you can, what I also found was that you can actually grab the Aura data. There was an option actually from Open Humans. Yeah, this page. So it's like you can see dashboard and well, the kind of Aura dashboard thing, and there's this button here, download archive. So here we go. The archive is being updated regularly. You can tell it to update again, and then you can download it at any point. And what you get from that is a folder that looks like about. Oh, a JSON file. Right, and I haven't actually loaded in this JSON file yet. We could actually do that if people are interested. That would be grabbing probably the closest thing to the raw data that that this thing will give you anyway, and then kind of doing it freeform however you like. But I haven't done that yet. So before we do that, what if we just stick in the these notebooks that they give in their Jupyter Hub. So this is, I guess these are the steps. It's like do a validation thing. I guess it already, I think it's kind of given it some environment variable already, so that it kind of knows it's me and knows the numbers for this.
I have a quick
so I
question.
think this would just work.
Are you supposed to be sharing the Google slide stuff, or are you?
Oh, sorry, I was flipping between windows there, and I was only sharing one. I was only sharing the. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, just checking. I'm guessing you're in like a terminal or something, or.
I have another. Okay, let me go back. I hope that hasn't been kind of completely baffling to you. I'd have a different tab for a bit. Let me correct that. Kind of stop sharing and then start sharing again. Is that how I can change that?
Yeah, usually you stop and then start again. There isn't a UI currently to switch what you're sharing while you're already sharing. I don't even think Zoom has that yet.
How do you stop sharing?
Usually you just click on the share your screen button again.
Okay. I'll share my entire screen this time. Okay, yeah, so apologies about that. So I was showing you before a bunch of things that were on this, in this Chrome browser, a bunch of tabs on here. That was most of the stuff I was talking about, but I was popping over to this other window once or twice, so you wouldn't have seen that But I'll just kind of pull back the tab that I got to there from this one, which was here. Is this one. So what I was saying before is oh, it's been slow. You gonna load? No, it's not loading. All right, never mind. Okay, we got to these Jupyter notebooks. Like I won't recreate the getting to these Jupyter notebooks, but just believe me, it's from one of the windows that I showed you earlier. At this point, now we're in their Jupyter hub, and another thing that I was telling you that I was also sharing the screen. Maybe you can see this now though. Is you can download. I think you did see in the other tab there was this export your archive or download your archive button, and when you click on that, you get this JSON file, which isn't very big, which I haven't read yet, but that I've downloaded to my machine. It's in my downloads folder, so you can pull the data and like from the Open Humans, there's just a button to just download the data and just get it in a JSON file. But they also give you this Jupyter Hub access, and the Jupyter Hub access. So what I'm going to do now is copy this and run it. But hopefully when I run it, it'll give similar. We can actually just go back and forth and see if my data looks anything like their data. Because as far as I can tell, looking at this, it's using an environment variable to do the access, and the kind of info so far will kind of suggest that if I run this, it will be my data, which also suggests to me that they have it set up that there'll be like I have a local environment variable that has access to my access token or something. That's just a hypothesis, but I've copied it, so let's run it and see what we get. Okay, so it's not giving me any output, which isn't necessarily encouraging, but all right, so let's just check this right now. So you see the default one in this notebook was height 180, weight 65, gender male. That's not me. That's whoever originally ran this thing. Yep. Okay, so this is me. Cards on the table, gender male. Little bit heavier than one should be at this height. Whatever. Yeah, so it's pulling my data from the Jupyter Hub, and then this is just plotting heart rate variability. So it's not everything. I've done probably 5. No, the O-ring. No, I've had the thing for about like 2 months, and I've probably been wearing it about 75% of the time. So it should have a fair amount of info on me. So heart rate versus, what is the x-axis here? I have no idea what this is plotting. Heart rate versus what? Interval.
I'm hoping it means time interval, but who knows?
Yeah.
Would the code say? Since is the code
maybe it says somewhere.
triggers the plot?
Yeah, so I was going to say what we can do is have a little look at what it's actually loaded in. But this is like average temperature at the weekend versus in the week. It doesn't look like there's a difference there, but why don't we do that now? So let's see. So basically, this first bit, it used the API, and then so it got this thing Aura. So that's going to be some dictionary or some object, and then it builds a data frame. And here, it chose to put some things in the data frame. It chose to put in the date, the heart rate, and the interval, right? So the question is, what else is there, right? So if we just do a little bit of exploring, we've got this thing Aura. What's in here? Profile, sleep, activity, readiness, and that's what's on the app. If you looked at the app, so in sleep, just do keys list. So maybe that's number of sessions or something. That's a list on 7, 8, probably days. So first one, what's in there? Okay, so this is all the information that you're getting within the sleep sleep type. Any of these you're particularly interested in? I thought the hypnogram was interesting. Like I just said, 5 men. But that's what I was talking about. So this is, well, let's just plot it. What kind of? Oh, it's a string. Okay, so. Oh. Am I having trouble with this? I should not have trouble with this. I always put things in data frames. I can't really do Matplotlib outside of data frames anymore. When you like that, it's just a string of. However, it's a string of numbers. Presumably, either 4 or 1 is deep sleep, etc. You know, we can get that information from somewhere, so that's cool. Then they've got, okay, well, what about REM? I think it might be a percentage. It's a number, maybe number of seconds in REM. Latency. Yes, there'll be a latency. Deep. Anything people want to see from this list? Like I said, these are the numbers that it's offering us within the sleep thing. There's activity and readiness, but I think these are kind of derived measures. I mean, we could have a look at those in a sec as well. I mean, yeah, light, onset latency. These are things that it shows you in the app. disturbances. That's probably an important one to look at for a lot of reasons.
So 3EG32 board is what you see there in green. This is an alternative to OpenBCI, but this is
It'd be good. It'd be good to just stick all of this in a table. There's probably some code in other places to pull it into a table, I would imagine. That's probably a pretty common thing to do. This is the other one, the other notebook that I think is more comprehensive. You know, so this was this one that's generating all these kind of fancy plots. Should we have a quick spin at this one and then we can move on or talk about something else or do whatever people want to do? I think this probably wraps it up nicely insofar as it should have some extra stuff in. But you can get, you know, as a reminder, like you can get to all of this stuff from the Open Humans Aura ring thing. You have to kind of activate that, and then you can get links to get to this sandbox and start playing around with the data. And actually, it's been really straightforward. This is all R. But it's given us their histograms of natural log of nocturnal heart rate variability. I don't know what a good number is for heart rate variability.
There's a couple articles I've read about like what predictors heart rate variability is useful for, like in like usually they try to look a lot of times at long term. In a lot of the studies I've read, like heart rate variability over like a year or so can like predict like chances of like blood clots or like different things where it's like a long enough data set can tell you how healthy different parts of your heart is.
Yeah, it's definitely a big interest, you know, health wearable biometric measurement. I mean, I don't know what you do with a single number. You know, like if you have low heart rate variability, then is that, you know, curtains for you? Or, you know, if it has multiple potential meanings and causes, then you do. But this is definitely a number that people care about for sure. There's loads of stuff in this notebook. I mean, you know, it definitely is going to be worth reading through. Sleep versus physical activity. I mean, that's another cool thing that Aura does. It seems to know when you've been doing exercise from your heart rate, presumably, and seems to kind of figure out when you start and when you stop, which is also nice. I think this notebook here, and to some extent the one before that as well, is, you know, this is like a serious analysis of this data. Like just studying this notebook for a day would be time well spent if you were at all like interested in using this stuff. So I'll have to make a note to do that for myself. Anyway, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Like I feel like this has been a bit one directional. I don't want to bore people too much. Morgan's still talking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Morgan's in the middle of his presentation at 5 minutes of fame. He should be done in less than 5 minutes. Yeah, and for people who
we could, we could have a look at, have a quick look at that activity. Let me just, I'm curious, and I haven't stopped sharing my screen yet, have I? So let's just quickly flash on what this other thing they've got here is. So activity. Presumably it will be a list like the other one. Past 5 minutes. Oh, that. Right, activity seems to have more days than sleep, which is curious. But presumably there's a good reason for that.
And we were at the Red Dick, which unfortunately has closed. But
all right, so this is what we get in activity.
love to bring brain imaging.
Day start, day end. High inactivity alerts. Whoa, there's loads of stuff
All
here.
right, thank you, Morgan. We need to figure out, I don't know, y'all have been in more Zoom meetings or other meetings or whatever, but what have we figured out is the virtual collective applause remote version to conclude a round of a talk. I can get a to bring back the camp lab was. We'll fix it in post. That's
yeah.
Seems to be knowing how many steps I'm taking. Yeah. What else can we see here?
okay. Well, thank you, Morgan, for the talk.
I mean, score meet daily targets. I don't really know
Which is the usual Thursday night.
what my daily targets were,
Starting at 6.
but Oren seems to have decided.
And but I've certainly joined dream team meetings 8 o'clock on Wednesdays. And
All right, so while we're here, let's have a quick look at readiness.
previously about doing things with connecting EEG with robotic arms and things like that. And the Moab's BCI benchmark was
It's pretty compact. Score, previous day, score.
The most publicly
I guess readiness is some kind of just summary number that they give to people that's kind of saying whether or not you're doing a good job.
So there's
You
a lot
sleep.
that you can do there as
Whatnot.
well as
We looked at sleep activity. Profile presumably is personal things.
the kinds of things that you see with
Let's not have those on the screen. Right. Okay. This concludes the
control arms
Aura demonstration of the evening.
brokers and things
Yeah. One thing I just remembered I wanted to announce that I found out this morning is Spirit AI's character engine beta is closing in a couple weeks. I'm going to try to grab as much of the software and stuff I can that's still available, because it was one of the best language processing, real-time language processing tools for actually building engaging games or experiences. Couple people I know were using it for testing how people respond to certain situations in VR and how people speak to other people through a screen and stuff like that, and just trying to do language processing on that and respond to it. I don't know what their next steps are. I think they aren't closing, but I need to check a couple more things on it. But it doesn't apply to BCI hardware as much as it does possible applications that could utilize natural language processing within brain computer interfaces. Yeah, like I know Alex Peak talked about it a couple weeks ago with his empathy test, where like you really, if you can get a computer system to accurately ask relevant questions to a person, you can like judge things in a much less biased fashion if the language model is correct. Yeah. Also, Morgan just finished his presentation. Welcome back, Morgan.
Hey there.
Yo.
I had the iPad open and was watching all the cool Aura stuff too, but
Oh, good. Good. Because I knew you
don't.
might be interested if you take. Well, the things that you didn't hear with the narration were essentially once you've gone and connected your account, then you can go through the Aura, the Open Humans Aura kind of page, and the two main things to know about what you can do from there is there's a button that you can click that's download your data, and that on that page it basically says that it's automatically updating your archive.
Okay.
And it's an up-to-date full data download, and it's really not that big. I think it was like 900 kilobytes. The downloaded JSON file, and the other thing that you can get to from that page is this Jupyter Hub, and the Jupyter Hub has some notebooks that do various things which you can load in and then run, and it also seems to be set up so that it knows your kind of access token or whatever. So when you run stuff, it finds an environment variable and just grabs your data. Like you don't have to enter in explicitly and know what your kind of token or what your login details basically are. Presumably, if and when you run that same notebook locally on your machine, well, not presumably, like definitely the way it reads an environment variable. So you would have to specify that environment variable or specify that token explicitly. So that's like a kind of definitely a pro of using the Jupyter Lab interface there, is you don't have to worry about finding your access details. Like once you've logged in, you have access to your data.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's kind of what they're, why they're running their own infrastructure.
Yeah, it saves you having to know anything.
Yeah.
Right. Or dig out your login details or really think about your registration at any level. I just, clicked on things as like, connect Google account, connect Aura account. I don't think I have to do much.
They always give you an option to be able to just download your raw data,
right?
As well,
Yeah. So you saw the notebooks, because if you saw the pictures like this,
I saw a few graphs, and
yeah, there's at least one
multitasking.
Really, really comprehensive notebook, and there's another one that's got stuff in, and there's other ones that we didn't look at, and the other thing we did was just look at what you actually read in, and basically what you get is it's just a JSON file, and just guessing from what we got, I mean, it might have been restructured a little bit, but what you get is this Aura object that has it's just an embedded dictionary with stuff on sleep, stuff on activity, stuff on readiness, and stuff on something else. And then it's just a bunch of like embedded JSON things, JSON dictionary, embedded dictionaries with kind of minimal information for quite a large number of things.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So did is it trying to do some sort of sleep staging?
I would guess so, yeah. Like I've seen those numbers, and in the app it has this little graph that it gives you every. It's like your night, and it's just like a 4-level time series, and that it was probably like literally plotting that string of numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah, how it's doing it and
Right.
how to interpret them, and also which one's which.
Yeah. And this is what I mean. This woman's thesis, PhD thesis, was, like had the benefit of sleep lab stuff plus like a bunch of wearables, and then seeing, what
This is absolutely what I want to know is
yeah,
what
right.
is it total garbage, this or a sleep staging thing? Is semi-automated EEG polysomnography garbage? Is it as good as a technician or not as good as a technician? Or
Well,
better as a
yeah.
technician?
At least on the Aura website, there's been a couple research papers they've shared that say it's accurate. I haven't read through all that many, but they do share quite a lot of research like stuff about like how accurate it is at one thing or another, as well as can it predict certain things about predict secondary things. But it's also like they haven't, I think, compared it to nearly enough systems. So
Yeah,
it's hard to
you'd
say.
want to know if it's closely coupled to a normal template or not. If you're interested in looking at clinical, or semi-clinical pathologies or just trends, where like if it's basically some kind of ML model that is trained on millions of data sets that all do something like what most normal sleep patterns look like, then, and it doesn't do a very good job on outliers, then the outliers might be exactly the thing you care about in certain applications.
Yeah.
So that would be the kind of question I would want to ask.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of an outlier because I have narcolepsy, and that does make my overnight sleep kind of weird. And I think that's why I get these red, warning messages all the time telling me that I'm doing a bad job, but I'm trying to improve.
Okay. Well, the woman who's joined us from David Walker's lab, I don't know if you remember, like she asked, this was like months ago. There was
Matthew Walker?
Yes.
Matthew Walker.
Berkeley. Jackie spelled with a Q. I don't know if you remember. Anyway, I mean, that would be the lab where, like they've got, the high-end equipment. They've got access to plenty of wearables and the kind of devices that people could use at home. And certainly this woman's thesis was focused on, can we do large-scale sleep studies just using personal devices, and yeah, it was definitely focused on things like how much can I get from the Apple Watch, right?
So she's going to be talking what next week? Did you say?
Well, she hasn't responded yet. So,
How did you get in touch?
I got a touch on LinkedIn.
Okay, you just saw that she was doing some interesting stuff and said, "Hey,
Well,
you wanna-"
she actually popped up on a Google alert, Google Scholar alert,
right.
and which tracks dissertations as well. So anyway, it's funny because it actually got flagged on a finite element modeling. So she must have cited. I bet you she cited an EEG, a finite element EEG paper somewhere that popped up. But oh,
Well, that's encouraging. That probably means she's doing some high density stuff.
This is, yeah. I think I saw this too. So Nivi's just passed on a.
Yeah, I heard you mention large scale
Yeah,
wearables.
yeah.
Yeah, I had read about the study.
And I think in looking for her thesis, I think I've come across this link. But this is also super interesting. I mean, and it does relate to the Apple Watch as well, right? In the sense that, like, how well can you really do ECG and heart rate variability and other like cardiovascular studies using a consumer, wearable device? And I guess part of why I'm focused on the watch is just that, like, when you get the Aura, you're kind of like saying, I want to get more.
Yeah.
And
You're the step above where we want to be getting the mass data.
I mean, it's cool, and let's not forget, at least here in San Francisco, that UCSF is doing a study with the manufacturer, and this is kind of why, or this is certainly why, the impetus for Bastion to add this was that this device was giving them something that open COVID and quantified flu could use. Like, this was good information for quantified flu, right? And anyway, so I think this is interesting in terms of the cardiovascular as well.
Yeah, so this paper is pretty interesting because it's not just taking large scale data, but also tailoring your neural network or whatever model they had used for each individual. So they have used autoencoders and they're training for each individual, which I think is very interesting, even in terms of sleep and so on, because every individual has very different characteristics and different signature. Like a person who is active might have a heart rate. When they are doing activity, their heart rate might be very different than a person who is resting. And I think similarly, when you're sleeping, your resting heart rate might be very different than an athletic person. So yeah, it's an interesting study, I think.
I also think like there's other things that could probably add to this, like if you're in a high altitude, like lower oxygen environment, what changes with a person's sleep, and can this like calculate some of those differences across even the same individual? Like, I know I've always felt like I sleep very differently in high altitude. I mean, exercising in high altitude is fundamentally different. I mean, I know people who are like long distance runners, and if they grew up in high altitude, they actually have a competitive advantage over someone at sea level most of the time, especially if that sea level person goes up to high altitude. Like, there are high altitude sports that, or like versions of things where trying to understand how heart rate, blood oxygenation, and all of that stuff is very different. And how can we, like, can we prove that it's healthy to go into lower oxygen environments for a specified amount of time? Or is there no benefit? Or does it hurt you if you're in too low of an oxygen environment for too long? Like, I don't think there's been large enough studies, especially regarding things like sleep.
I'm just looking at this Python Aura ring. Yeah, I just dropped in an interesting. So MICI was one of the conferences that was actually last week, but and it's usually a big brain imaging segmentation registration conference. But I really liked this heart brain modeling on the basis of UK Biobank. That it was a super interesting paper. I dropped in the chat. So sorry, I just wanted to quickly bring up next week's all of next week's events. So this coming weekend, I don't know if everybody saw the. Please check the link for. I forget what the event's actually called. It's like futuristic trends in neurotechnology. That's hosted by NeurotechX India. It's got a really cool set of speakers. So it's set up a little like the BCI 101. It's like 2 days of webinars, and yeah, and it's not a bad time for us. I mean, it's early in the morning on the weekend, but that's yeah. This weeks of conferences, like so much has started at 1 to 3 a.m. so I'll take 7 a.m. Anyway, great set of speakers, including David Eagleman, who's the author of a bunch of books, but the recent Livewired, and is, of course, the CEO of Neosensory, which we talked about, which is a really cool device company, wearables company that's focused on sound to vibration, like wrist device, as well as they've made these full body shirts that use hundreds of vibrational sensors to get across even more complex sounds. And so it's great to have him. It's got a lot of other speakers capturing quite a wide range, from neurocinema to neuromarketing to neuroscience. And anyway, should be interesting. So sign up for that. Again, links are there. The BCI awards were actually really cool. I mean, totally worth seeing the 12 nominees for the BCI awards if you want to catch 12 great, really interesting projects. And we've got, I posted this on the Neurotech SF messenger group, which, by the way, Nivi and anybody, like, I haven't, if you're in San Francisco, you can join this messenger group. someday we will have in-person meetings again.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's what we
Hopefully,
need yeah.
Seems like a really long time away.
I think it's still going to be like a year, so like no
Yeah.
rush. But if you ever want to join, you can. I do sometimes post things there, and the My Leg developer actually joined us last weekend for the Neurobar, and apparently the Swiss embassy or Swiss organizations doing demo days next week. And My Leg is one of the demoers, and they won the Neuro Cup. But the BCI awards had everybody from postdocs from Ed Chang's lab to other really like high profile, super high profile research groups. So it was the BCI awards was different than the IEEE hackathon awards.
yeah.
But
Yeah, maybe we can do a demo day at Noise Bridge. Like people, we'd only be able to have the presenters and like maybe one person for each demo or something, but live stream the demo to show kind of what it's like, because things like having someone use it who isn't the developer is always a very different experience than like listening to one of the developers like go through using their own device.
yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, but like you saw with 5 minutes of fame, like I think everybody's like, if I can do it virtual.
Yeah. There isn't much reason.
I mean, there's some stuff I can do downstairs, with my family. I can at least run my family members in high density EEG.
Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to say that also this coming week is the IEEE Brain Advanced Neurotechnologies workshop, which has got some awesome speakers. One of which is, of course, Helen Mayberg of depression, deep brain stimulation fame, and who's also featured in The Pleasure Shock, which is the book we talked about recently. Should be, like that maybe more so than the IEEE SMC meeting that was in Toronto this week. I think there'll be some more interesting stuff.
Yeah. It's 9 o'clock. Also, you're still muted, Morgan.
Sorry. And Colonel is also going to do a demo webinar on the 22nd. And so, yeah, that's next Thursday. So we'll be able to talk about that. And yeah, I'll see if I can ping Kyle, and if Kyle can at least join us for his thoughts on time domain. Like, this is exactly what this is the super expensive equipment that Kyle's labs bought, and that, like, for a long time, Graton's lab in Illinois, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign was one of the only groups like doing this kind of stuff. So he would be absolutely, his opinion and evaluation would be awesome. And there's, amazingly, I actually ran out of space in terms of, so there's Manish Sagar at Stanford is running the Society for Neuroscience and Creativity meeting that's next week. And there's a Neuroethics Society meeting that's also, check the Neuroethics Slack channel. I dropped a link in there. And there's more. check some of the recent EEG. I mean, Kyle has a paper from this summer of using Muse for stroke detection, which is on medRxiv, and I'd still prefer to see EIT, but anyway, lots of cool papers, and yeah, plenty of additional conference material. Oh yeah, so today started generative adversarial collaborations as a part of computational cognitive neuroscience. So they did the first one today. They'll do the next one Monday, and yeah, those are really interesting, as well as the I don't know if people are catching the Learning Salon on Fridays, but it's 4 p.m. on Crowdcast. So check the Learning Salon. Probably the best place to get some neurophilosophy, I think. John, have you caught any of the Neurosalon meetings?
No, tell me more.
So it's it's the Princeton woman who's, I think she's moved to Facebook now. Ida, Jovo. I'm just it's like I know these people from their Twitter handles. So Vogelstein at JHU APL, and did a lot of the big brain stuff, and I don't know the Brit, but it's the three of them kind of hosting, moderating, asking questions, and then with one speaker. But yeah, they can get pretty philosophical, and certainly are trying to talk about the big topics. So it's not like the latest in analysis or things like that, but they've had like Melanie Mitchell, and then they get about like 1,000 people watching, and then they bring in people who are attending to ask questions, and those in themselves can be kind of pretty big people too. Anyway, it's pretty good. I mean, sometimes I'm working on something else while I've got it on, but great discussion that you don't really catch other places these days. Okay. And yeah, check the links if you're into FNIRS in the regular FNIRS. The Data Blitz this week had lots of speakers, and everything's on YouTube. Check it out. Hopefully, we got some people from the Neurobar and NeurotechX Zurich that are going to be interested in doing some projects with NIRS and Moab. And yeah, I want to thank Alex and Ryan for videographing and streaming. And
yep, I definitely need the noise bridge grade internet.
Okay.
I had 25% dropped frames today.
Okay.
Streaming.